All right, I know everybody's had their eyes focused all over the world and all over the country. We're worried about a dirty commie being elected in New York. There are bombs being dropped in Iran, but we have a domestic problem that, frankly, is probably bigger than all those things, and that's our spending, our debt, and we still have a big, beautiful bill, maybe? I don't know. How ugly is the beautiful bill? Let's ask the senator about it. Joining me now, Senator Ron Johnson of the great state of Wisconsin. Senator, I understand you just had a meeting at the White House about all this. How'd that go?
Listen, it went well, cordial. I have to lay out the problem we have here is the Democrats left us such an enormous mess, or actually messes. The border that has to be cleaned up, wars, a $1.9 trillion average deficit over the last 4 years, when prior to the pandemic, the average deficit was $660 billion, about a third less. So these are not easy issues to deal with. So whether it's the speaker, whether it's Majority Leader Thune, whether it's President Trump, we all want to rein in spending. It's how do we do it? Unfortunately, we've got big spenders in our party. We've got people demanding, higher SALT deductions. And again, it's a difficult thing to do. What my role has been is I've been just trying to make everybody focus on how do you solve our problems. First step, admit you have one. I think most people admit we have one. But the second important step is properly define it. And I think one of the problems I have with congressional leadership is they say, well, the only numbers that count are 218 and 50. Well, if that's all you're worried about, you end up the lowest common denominator, and you end up with a bill that just doesn't meet the moment. And that's kind of what we have right now. It is true. It's historic deficit reduction or spending reduction, not deficit, spending reduction. The problem is it's historic by an order of magnitude, the spending increase. We had more than $2 trillion increased spending in just 1 year. We're not even going to cut $2 trillion over 10 years. So I appreciate the work the House has done, but it just doesn't meet the moment.
Senator, can you help me understand what exactly people are protecting in the bill that makes these deficits still so bad? I'm not even going to ask you, obviously, to name names on who's protecting what, but clearly people are protecting ridiculous spending items. This can't all be SALT deduction stuff, can it? What are people protecting that people like you want to stop?
I just think they went about it the wrong way. They started over $7 trillion and then suffered death by 1,000 cuts. And they didn't do what I suggested. This is to pat myself on the back, but I went back and I suggested 3 pre-pandemic level spending options. Clinton in 1998, Obama in 2014, Trump in 2019. They'll use those actual outlays, increase them by population growth and inflation, and you start there. You leave Social Security, Medicare, and interest alone, spend what you need to spend for 2025, but all of the outlays plus up by that control, population growth and inflation. If you do that, your baseline budget would be somewhere between $5.5 and $6.5 trillion. Now, I've been beating this drum, beating my head against the wall now since January 1st when I first published my Wall Street Journal article. Unfortunately, people just blow it off. I don't know, that's just too many lines, too much work, or I think it's more just stuck in the old ways. Identify a couple programs, tweak them, get a CBO score, pull a number out of the air, 1.5 trillion. Again, that was just pulled out of the air. It bears no relationship to anything. It's not in any context. It's not half of what we need to do. It just sounds like a big number, and it's completely inadequate. So again, coming from the business world, I keep saying this would be easy. I would go to my managers and say, hey, guys, I said you could increase your budgets based on inflation and the number of customers you served. You're 40% over that. What's wrong with you? Get back in line or you're fired. That'd be about a 5-minute conversation. I think most responsible business managers, wouldn't have increased their budgets at 23 or 40, or in comparison to the Clinton budgets, like 90% over what he spent, fully inflated. But you dial them back in. But it's not that easy here in government, unfortunately.
Okay, I understand the president is pushing to have a bill passed by July 4th, by Independence Day. Now, July 4th cometh, and that right soon. And to hear you talk, it doesn't sound like we're about to have a bill. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. And listen, I don't mind the pressure being applied to us because now we're finally starting to have the conversations. I mean, the committees, they've been working their tail off. Listen, I really appreciate all the work that Chairman Crapo's done of Senate Finance. He's been involving us in these meetings, but this is complex and it's hard. So now it's concentrating everybody's efforts. So now we're starting to have some pretty interesting discussions. I mean, I just came from lunch and there's good back and forth, which is what you need. These are difficult issues. Different states have different requirements. Different provisions affect different states differently. These are senators from those states. They represent their people. They represent their legislators. So this isn't easy. So what I certainly don't want is I don't want this bill. I have no problem with leadership and the chairman of the House, sending us the draft. But now we need to take a look at things. And what I proposed is, I'll show you right here. This is my line by line bullet point of the different elements, different provisions of the bill with their scores. If it's red, that means it's adding to the deficit. If it's black, it's reducing the deficit. There's generally more red on here than black. But what we ought to do as a conference is lock ourselves in a room, go line by line, element by element, score by score, and based on the definition of the problem, the fact that Biden on average incurred $1.9 trillion deficits per year. Right now, the CBO score of the OBB, the baseline is somewhere between 21 and 24 trillion over 10 years. In other words, $2.1 to $2.4 trillion. We got to do better than that. So based on that reality, do we really need to cut that tax? Do we really need to offer that tax credit? Do we really need to spend that amount of money on that priority? That's the kind of work we ought to do. Again, you rush this thing, we won't do that work. And the last thing I want is for Republicans to take the Nancy Pelosi approach and say, well, we've got to pass this thing before we know what's in it. We need to thoroughly know what's in it. I'd like to, whatever the final text is, do an AI scrub. And the question I'd ask the AI is there anything in here that'd be just perfect, for example, a Tom Coburn waste book? If it is, we better take it out. Let's not be embarrassed by that.
No doubt. All right, let's shift gears off this horribly depressing topic, Senator. And I want to talk about something that's somehow actually more horrific. We now know, according to Kash Patel, that not only did China get involved in 2020's election in some way, fake driver's licenses and whatnot, that actually isn't even the most outrageous part. The most outrageous part is the Federal Bureau of Investigation covered that up. Now, Senator, for me, that means the Federal Bureau of Investigation should end completely. When the secret state police agency does something like that, the entire agency should be shut down. But I'm not a naive human being. What can we do from here? Who's going to prison?
So let me describe the problem we've had here. Pam Bondi gets into the Attorney General's office there, Department of Justice, and they let go a lot of attorneys. You just couldn't trust them. They were obviously partisans. They're having a really difficult time replacing those individuals. One of the big reasons is, for example, we've got a wonderful person, Judge Trupas from Wisconsin, represented Trump for 30 days during the recount. Everything is above board. The Wisconsin Attorney General said what he did was fine in terms of the alternate slate of electors. Now he's spent over $1 million just defending himself against that same Attorney General in Wisconsin who's using lawfare against the judge simply for representing Trump. So they make examples of people like President Trump. They make examples of Judge Trupas for just simply representing a client. Just happens to be now the President of the United States. It's like they would never do that to somebody who represented a triple rapist murderer. But boy, if you represented Trump, they're going to destroy you. They're going to destroy your finances. They're going to destroy your career. So it's a real problem now for the Department of Justice to hire people to replace the ones. And look, I'm hearing there's a couple hundred people. That's a lot of manpower that you'd like working with you to uncover this abuse, to prosecute crime, but they don't have it. So listen, there's a real challenge. When the Republican administration comes into these partisan agencies, it's almost impossible to gain control of them. And you only got 4 years. They just wait you out. So listen, this is a real challenge. I am not criticizing Kash Patel or Pam or President Trump. This is just maybe an insurmountable task. So we have high expectations, but understand the deep state is powerful. It is deep. It's highly partisan and not in our favor.
What do they serve for lunch at the White House, Senator? We talking?
What's
we
that?
talking salads, burgers, steaks? What do they serve for lunch at the White House? We talking salads, steaks? Please tell me it was something. Smash burgers? Tell me it was something decent. It's the White House.
I don't know. I haven't eaten there for many, many years.
Oh, it's too bad. I'm dying to know. Senator, thank you. I appreciate it.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.